Chris Bird here, and I'm the owner of Supplement Super Source, and I'm going to talk a little bit about protein today. More specifically, I'm going to talk about whey protein. And one of the things that I hear online a lot of times are people talking like whey is a type of product, when actually it's an ingredient. Because they'll say, I want a whey protein. Well, whey is an ingredient in many types of things, and so it's not really a product in and of itself. First of all, many of you may not even know what whey is. Whey is actually the byproduct of making cheese. When you make cheese, you have the solid product, which is the curds, and then you have the water product, which is what actually is the whey. And back in the 70s, they figured out they could turn that water product into a powder and extract the protein from it. So when you talk about whey protein, it actually is a byproduct of making cheese. And so one of the things they get asked all the time, quite honestly, is it natural? Yes. It's from dairy, and it's just simply, like I said, the byproduct of the cheese making process. Now, because it is dairy, some people are intolerant to it, so there are other types of protein out there. Egg is one, soy is another. There's actually several other types. Pea protein is actually getting fairly popular among some people right now. But again, we're going to talk more or less just on the whey protein, since that's the most common. First of all the protein, when it comes from the processing plant, is what's known as a concentrate. And that concentrate has fats and carbs and protein in it. Now, in the United States, there are only 4 plants that actually supply whey protein, the actual concentrate, to all the protein manufacturers. So, that being said, the manufacturers, all the different national manufacturers that you see, get their protein from essentially the same sources. Now, what they do with it when they get it will change it, but it actually comes from all the same place, essentially. Now, if it is processed, it can become an isolate protein. And in the processing of the isolate protein, typically, isolate protein will come out with just protein and will not have any carbs and not have any fats. Now, this is where a lot of the companies actually begin to differ, and it is how they actually process their isolate proteins. Now, one of the cheapest ways to do it is what's called ion exchange. There are other types of processes that also apply heat to the protein. And what it does is when they do this type of processing, it creates the greatest yield of protein. So the number of protein grams that they get out of the concentrate is actually the highest possible. Again, it's also the cheapest. Unfortunately, a lot of that protein is not bioavailable to the human being, which means your body can't process it. Once a lot of this heat treatment occurs, the body just simply cannot process a protein. So it may say 30 grams, but there may only be 18 that's bioavailable, and that's just an example. And so you're not getting 30 grams of protein out of it. Now, there are other companies that actually will do other types of processing, which are considered cold filtered processing. If you look on the label and you look for something that says ultra filtered or cross flow microfiltered, those are probably the 2 of the most popular ways of doing a cold filtered protein. Now, those particular ways are more expensive, and so, at least in the past, fewer companies did it, but they also create protein that is the most bioavailable to the body. So you will be able to actually use what it says. One of the things that we try to strive to do is really try to only get proteins that are cold filtered, and try to stay away from the proteins that are heat treated. Now, where this comes into effect in just a typical protein, because you may say, well, I don't get an isolate. A, a complex is what a lot of people just call a whey. That's kind of the misnomer. And a complex is a protein that has concentrate in it, and it has isolate in it. It may actually have egg album. It could have a few other things in it also. So when you typically go out and buy a protein, you're probably buying a complex, um, a whey complex, and it may have other things in it also. Now, one of the ones that I particularly like is this Energy X Sublime Whey. This is what I particularly get, um, and it's what I use. It's got both the concentrate in it, and it's got a cold filtered isolate in it. So therefore, I know I'm getting what I want to get. One of the other things that happen in I want to say cheaper proteins, as far as not good quality, is something what they spike the proteins and spike the numbers. Um, Sometimes it's called nitrogen spiking. You can also do it by adding glutamine to the product. And one of the things that I kind of am hesitant with, if I see glutamine as one of the listed ingredients on the protein, but yet glutamine is not listed as its own number, as far as there's this much glutamine in the product by itself, say in an amino acid complex, then I get a little bit worried, because it very well could be that glutamine has been added to increase the protein numbers. And unfortunately, um, the protein that is in glutamine is not used by the body in the same way that other proteins are used. And so the number becomes a little bit of a false number. So that's something that I also am kind of leery about. Again, if glutamine is listed as one of the main ingredients of the protein, but yet it's not listed out separately. Now, because there are some companies, Metabolic Nutrition is one, that does add vitamins, and they add glutamine, they add branched chains, they add a lot to their protein beyond just the protein itself. But yet they list everything out that you're getting. And so, if they're adding glutamine, they're not adding it to increase the protein number. That's not the reason for doing it. Now, for an isolate, I have switched to Eat the Bear. Has a cool name. It has an amazing taste to it. One of the things with isolates, sometimes they really don't create a real thick protein. EBT, or Eat the Bear, does. It creates a real thick protein. But what I really like about it is just on the facts themselves. The scoop is 30 grams. Of that 30 grams, it lists out the whey isolate is 27.8 grams. So of the 30 grams, 27.8 is the whey isolate, and of that, I'm getting 25 grams of protein. So this is a cold filtered protein, because the number of grams that you're getting is actually almost the same as the number of protein that's actually in there. And so, Eat the Bear is one of these companies that is very good about really putting what's in the product on the label. And so it's one of the products that I trust and I really like. Again, isolate, no fats, no carbs, just simply protein. Now, on the isolates, one thing that happens is they are faster absorbing. The body will take them in much faster than a complex, because the complex has both the isolate in it, and it will have the concentrate in it. Concentrate will generally be absorbed in the body somewhere around a 2-hour window, maybe a little bit longer. They can add egg album and a few other things that take longer to process, and therefore you get more of a time-released type protein, whereas isolate proteins are generally within 45 minutes to an hour, the body has absorbed up the proteins. Now, there's also casein, which is actually a milk derivative, which is a very slow acting protein that will usually be in the body between 7 and 8 hours. And I'll actually do a video just on casein later on by itself. But anyway, so this is a video on protein, and hope you have a better idea really about what you're talking about now.